We're continuing in the book of Deuteronomy. We're on the last day of Moses' life. This is the end of his Mishneh Torah. This is the end of his giving over everything that he wants to give over to the Jewish people before they go into the land of Israel. And so this week we're reading two Parshas, Nitzavim and Vayeilach. And then we take a break. Then it's going to be Rosh Hashanah. And then there's the last Torah reading in the book of Deuteronomy that we read on Simchat Torah that then couples over with the beginning Genesis. We start all over again, as you know. So this is like the coming to the end of this year's Parsha classes. A little sad, really, and I'm sure it was sad for Moses on some level. He knows he's not going to go into the land, but he is so in love with his people, and he's so in love with God, and he's doing everything he can to give over everything that needs to be given over before he dies, before he's gathered unto his people. God has told him, this is the day, finish this business, speak over what you need to speak over, and then it's going to be time for you to be gathered to go up the mountain and to be gathered unto your people. And this is the day, this is the last day. We're on the last day. So I'm going to start this week's Torah portion. It's a double Parsha. This week's Torah portion is called Nitzavim. And I'll read you the first paragraph, because there's a lot in here. There's a lot in here altogether, and some of it's repetitious. Some of it we've done before, but we'll go over it because this is always read before Rosh Hashanah. So there's a lot of lining up with the messages of Rosh Hashanah and what Rosh Hashanah is and how to approach Rosh Hashanah. So you are standing today, all of you, before Hashem your God, the heads of your tribes, your elders and your officers, all the men of Israel, your small children, your women, your proselyte who is in the midst of your camp, from the hewer of the wood to the drawer of the water, for you to pass into the covenant of Hashem your God and into his imprecation that Hashem your God seals with you today, in order to establish you today as a people to him, and that he be a God to you. Another covenant, I'm adding this. This is the re-covenant of us and the Jewish people and God. And he spoke to you, and he swore to your forefathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, not with you alone do I seal this covenant, but with whoever is here, standing with us today before Hashem, our God, and with whoever is not here with us today. So I want to start off with this first sentence. You are standing today, all of you, before Hashem your God. And then we have the categories, the tribes, the elders, the officers, all the men, all the children, all the women, the converts, the hewer of the wood, the wood chopper, and the drawer of water. That everybody's here listening, and everybody's collected, and everybody's together. So I was speaking with a friend of mine earlier today about this concept of the Jewish unity. This is us together, all together, standing with Moses, hearing what Moses has to say to us as we're going into the land. And there's perhaps a unity here. Can we have unity today? We speak about this a lot. We speak about the desire for there to be unity amongst the Jewish people, for there to be a community of the Jewish people where we are one, whatever that means. And so on further questioning what that means to be one, I would like to suggest that part of it might be the extrapolation that the commentators speak about, which is that we are responsible for each other. We are a people where we're like one entity, one body. Let's say we're like one hand, right? So we're many different parts of our hand, but we're all part of the same hand. We're all part of the same body. So if I cut off a part of my body, cut off a part of the Jewish people, I'm cutting off a part of me. Like, we're all connected. I love the mystical teachings that speak about the individual soul, so to speak, that we have, that we're a body with a soul, and the soul comes from the source, comes from God. It's the breath of God being blown into us. But that we're all walking around like we're separate entities. We're all walking around like we're individuals, that we have our body and that we're separate from other people. But on a soul level, on a spiritual level, we're all interconnected. We're all one root. The idea that the great aspens in Denver are separate trees. There's like a huge forest of trees, and they all look separate. They're all standing tall. They're all, looking like they're individuals. But if you go under the ground, the network of roots under the ground is they're all connected. They're all one. It's all one root system. It's all one organism. And perhaps this is a way to understand who we are as the Jewish people. We're all one root system. And when it goes on to say that this message is being given over, and this commitment to the covenant, that the Jewish people, that God, that we're all recommitting to this relationship with each other, and it's not just the people there, it's not just the people at Mount Sinai, it's us today, it's also us. We're part of that collective. So when Moses says that this is a covenant with those of us who are standing today before Hashem, our God, and with whoever is not here today, that we're all part of that one root system. We all have one common soul, even though it appears to be separate, and we're all separated individually into our individual space suits. So we have our, like I heard an analogy that if you go up into space, you have to wear a space suit. But if you take off your space suit, you can't survive, right? In space, you need a space suit. On Earth, we need our bodies. We can't survive in this world without our bodies. So the soul needs its body, just like the astronaut needs his spacesuit, right? So that's our spacesuit is our body, but who we are deep down is our soul. And a lot of this conversation in Nitzavim, Vayeilach, is about our soul. Moses is saying, you're all here today. You're all here today. We're all responsible for each other. And whatever that means, we're going to be divided. We've always been divided. We've always been annoyed with this, how many shuls are there on the desert island that this one Jew got washed up on? There are 2 shuls, right? There's the shul I go to, and the shul I would never be seen step foot in. I wouldn't ever go to that shul. There's always division amongst the Jewish people, in our history and in our present days. And can we foresee a time where there isn't that division, where there's a unity? And perhaps the unity comes from unity of values, that we have shared values, or that we understand that we are one people, and when one part of us is hurting, we're all hurting. I think we felt that very clearly when those 3 teenagers were missing in Israel in 2014, I believe it was, and all of the Jewish people, these were our boys, these were our children, these were people that even if we didn't know them, which most of us didn't know them, right? But we felt like they were us. There, by the grace of God, go I. The people who survived, or people who were throughout Jewish history, there by the grace of God go I. We feel each other's pain. Maybe that's part of what it means to recognize that we're one organism, and that we're responsible for each other. We are amazing at creating organizations, chesed, charitable organizations, where we're giving money, a free loan society, or we're providing food, the food pantries, and the taking care of each other, the looking after the poor and helping the immigrant, and these social action things that the Jewish people are really good at. And perhaps it stems from this deep down kind of conscious, unconscious, who knows, but this realization, or accepting the fact, or accepting the notion that we're one people, that we're connected, even if we don't agree with each other, even if we're angry with each other, even if we wouldn't be seen dead in that synagogue, so to speak, they're still our people, and we're still responsible for each other. And this concept that Moses is speaking to everybody, I'm speaking to all of you, all of you standing here today, all of you, and then that we're all responsible for each other, and we're all equal, right? Whether you're the water drawer, or the wood chopper, or the convert, or the children, or you're the elders, whoever you are, everybody's included. Everybody's part of this covenant. Everybody is equal, because we all have a soul that comes from God, and it's equal. We're all equal. At the end of the day, when we get buried, when we die and we get buried in the same plain pine coffins, hopefully, and we wearing our plain shrouds. Everybody's equal. There's no pockets in our shrouds. We don't take anything with us. So this is the equalizer. We're all equal in the eyes of God, and hopefully we could all be equal in each other's eyes. And this is a bar. This is a standard that we're heading for, that we're looking for, that we're trying to create a unity of the Jewish people. And whatever that means, it doesn't mean we're all going to agree each other, but maybe we can see those things that connect us, and we can continue to be kind to each other. We continue to listen to each other, continue to see each other as part of the one being that is the Jewish people, and see ourselves as part of a collective, a part of a unit, and that we are responsible for each other. And when one falls, we all fall, and when one rises, we all rise. Like, it's all, that analogy of the boat, the man on the boat who's drilling a hole in his boat under his seat, and we're all going to go down. So that's the concept of we're all responsible for each other, and that comes out in this week's Torah portion. So you are all standing here today. This word Nitzavim, standing, it's an unusual word. Other words are used in other places, but this word Nitzavim is similar, has the root of matzeva, which is the monument that we put on a grave, on a grave, or the other ways it's used. But this upright monument, this pillar, this standing, tall, they're standing strong. And one way to think about it, say our commentators, is that the Jewish people were standing there. They were together, they were unified, they were listening to Moses, and they were strong. They were standing upright. They were like angels, like, we're going to do the will of God. We're like the angels. We're ready to accept this, and we want this, and we want God to be with us, and we want this relationship with God. And they were standing firm, strong, unwavering. Right? It's a really nice idea of being able to stand tall and knowing God's with them. Last week we read about the curses, all these things that are going to befall the Jewish people if we turn our back on God, if we worship other gods, if we have idols, etc. If we do that, then all these awful things are going to happen. It's going to be the consequences of our turning back. But God's saying here, Nitzavim, even you're standing, I'm still here, I'm ready to forgive you, I'm here to forgive you, I'm here to welcome you. I created you, the world, I created you, people, I created you, the Jewish people, so that I could give, so I could have a relationship to you, and I could bestow my goodness upon you, and I will wait for you to come to me, to turn back to me, to have a relationship with me. This is what we're learning. This is very apropos what's happening as we enter into the season of the high holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We're looking to return, and we have many references in this Torah portion, it's a small Torah portion, about returning to God, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But I want this idea of the Metzeva, and this idea of standing, of it being strong and solid and permanent and upright and committed and unwavering. And here we are, we're ready to enter into this, continue to recommit ourselves to the relationship to God, knowing God will be with us even if we turn astray, even if all this stuff happens to us. We know that God is with us, and that's what we're standing strong on. That's what we're holding on to. What's our pillar? What is it that we hold on to? What's solid for us? Interestingly, there was a lovely medrash that was given over recently in a talk that I heard. It was a story of two rabbis. One was Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva is on a boat, and the boat is tossed about, and it's shattered into many pieces, and it looks to the other rabbi who's watching from another boat that Rabbi Akiva had succumbed and had died in the storm. The other rabbi gets to land, and he comes on to shore, and he sees Rabbi Akiva sitting there learning Torah. Like, what happened? And Rabbi Akiva says, I was tossed about, and there was a plank of wood, and I held on to this plank of wood, and the crashing waves came and went, and I held on to this piece of wood, and this piece of wood sailed me into shore, and I survived. And we could use that, and it has been used, to say, what is our piece of wood? What is our plank? What is it that we hold on to that keeps us strong, keeps us upright? And in this season of coming to Rosh Hashanah, coming to Yom Kippur, like, what is it that I'm holding on to? Think about that, and then if it's good. If it's not good, like, try to find something else. Is it I'm holding on to, my faith? I'm holding on to God. I'm holding on to the transcendent nature of the universe, of the world. I'm holding on to my dear loved ones, my relationships that I have with other people. I'm holding on to something that's not physical. I'm not holding on to my house. I'm holding on to people, and I'm holding on to love, and I'm holding on to goodness, and I'm holding on to emes, truth. That's what I'm holding on to. By the way, the first word in this week's Torah portion, atem, you are standing. This you is who's standing, and that word atem, turn it around, is emet. It's truth. So truth is standing tall. Truth is standing solidly. Maybe we're pointed to truth as being that plank that we have to hold on to. Hold on to the truth. Like, and the vicissitudes of life are going to come, and they're going to knock us over. We're going to hold on to truth. That's what we're going to hold on to as our plank. Okay, you're holding on today, right? Don't put off tomorrow what you can do today. Another hinting to this idea of, like, this is who I am today. Who am I today? I have to dig deep and be the person today that I want to be tomorrow. If I keep being that person today, and then tomorrow I'll be that person today, and today, that I'll become more of that person. And as we go more into this Torah portion, we understand, perhaps, that we are what we do. Sorry, I have to skip ahead because I'm up to this idea. But the hidden sins, it says in this week's Torah portion, the hidden things are for you, God. But the revealed things are for us to carry out all the words of the Torah. The hidden things and the revealed things. So there's a lot of commentary on what's hidden and what's revealed. What's hidden could be the reasons why we do things. Like God says, don't commit adultery. God says, don't don't murder, don't worship false idols, right? We have a lot of things that we're not allowed to do. But the reason why, we might come up with reasons. We might think, oh, that's a really good thing. It works for our society. People don't go around murdering each other. Of course. On the other hand, the bottom line is we don't know. We don't really know why we're doing all these things. Yes, society works well, but there's a much deeper reason. There are many, many layers to the reasons why we do things. And those are the hidden things. Though those hidden things aren't up to us. Perhaps it's the reasons, and perhaps it's also what's going on in our minds. What's going on in our minds when we do this? Like, I might be a miserly person, and I'm thinking miserly thoughts, but I'm giving money, because God says give money. Give tzedakah, redistribute your wealth. And I'm giving it, maybe I'm not giving it with a full heart. Maybe I'm not giving it with the right intentions. And maybe my thoughts are like, oh, I don't really want to be doing this, but I'm doing it. So on some level, we are what we do. And we create ourselves by doing the right thing, right? So we could have a lot of internal battle against character traits that we're born with. We're born with certain desires, and yet they might go contrary to what it is that we're told to do. We might really, really want to, whatever it is that we want to do, eat that ham, eat that shellfish. Right? We might want to do that. We might justify all sorts of reasons why we're doing that. But there might be a part of us that says, I know I shouldn't do that. Like the Torah is saying I shouldn't do that. I don't really understand the reason. I don't know why, right? I can't ascribe to it hygienic reasons. We're in a world where perhaps things are more hygienic, but it's not a hygienic reason. It's because God said so and we don't really know the reason. But I'm going to do it even if I don't understand the reason. I'm going to do it, right? So we are on some level very, very, very much judged on what we do, not necessarily what we think. We could think all sorts of very high thoughts, but if you actually do it, we haven't put it into practice. And our avoda, our work is to put it into practice. So when we say that these things are hidden, the reasons, the thoughts, those things are hidden. We don't see those things, but we do see what we do, right? We do see that. And we do come across other people who are doing things that impact us. If we go among people who are speaking gossip, who are slandering other people, we have to we're responsible for each other. And I don't want to hear that. Let's change the subject. Let's talk about something else. But this is kind of the conversation around this particular Torah portion where it talks about the things that are hidden and the things that are revealed. So the things that are revealed are things that we see, that we know, that we let in, and the things that are hidden are things that God knows, right? So I might have a character trait that I could say, well, I couldn't help myself. I'm just born that way. I'm born to be selfish, or I'm born. But no, right? We have a choice. We have the choice to choose to recognize that we might have a part of us that is selfish. That's could be very, you're created that way, and you have the capacity to do actions that are not in line with that piece of your character, right? You don't want to act out selfishly, so you're going to overcome that, and that's in our realm. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the first sentence. You are standing here today, so you Atem, you, the Jewish people, all the Jewish people, you, truth, are standing here today. You, all of us, the whole gamut of the Jewish people, everybody, equality, everybody's the same. It's interesting, the wood choppers it says the wood choppers and the water bearers. So in some commentators, that's men and women. The wood choppers are the men and the water carriers are the women. And I heard something else which I thought was really lovely, which is that the wood choppers are people who are like inherently arrogant, like they're tall and upright and so on. So we want to bring down the arrogance. We want to chop down the wood. We want to chop down the arrogance and bring it down to like a manageable level. And the water drawers, water is something humble. Water is something that flows down to the lowest level. So we're going to draw up the water. We want the water to come up. So much we want to bring down the arrogant, and we want to raise up those people who feel like they are worthless and aren't don't matter, which isn't the case, of course. And so we're going to raise up those people and pull down those people, and that's the water drawers and the wood choppers. I thought that was a lovely way to think about those categories of people. But we're all here, all of us. We're all there. We're all listening. We're all recognizing God is with us, even when we turn aside, even when, after all the curses that we read about in last week's Torah portion, when we do those things, God will still be here waiting for us to move ourselves to start doing the right things, to start feeling remorse for the things that we've done, and turn ourselves, like pivot. Like we use that word a lot now in the COVID era, to pivot. Like things aren't going the way we want, so we have to pivot. We have to do different things. So too, as we enter this season, we might not be living the way we want to. We have to pivot. We have to say, okay, I'm not doing what I want to be doing. I'm not living up to my potential. I'm not doing what I should be doing. And I know I'm not doing what I should be doing. So now I can pivot. And I can start doing like baby steps, one thing at a time. Pivot, do what the baby steps, do the things that are in line with the things that you know are the right to do. So it goes on and it talks about right. So this idea of that we're all there. Recommitting our relationship to God, not just the people who people are standing there, but all the future generations. There's a lot in this in Moses's last speech to the people. Say, yes, it's about you today, but it's also about the future generations. It's also about, you've got to take this and you've got to pass it forward. And so actually I'm going to jump ahead to the second Torah portion in this week's readings, which is Vayeilach. And at the end of that parsha, which is apparently the smallest parsha in the Torah, we read about the mitzvah of writing our own Torah scroll. We have to write our own Torah scroll, it says. And it also that there's at the end of the Shemitah year, the end of the 7-year cycle, the king will read the Torah to all the people. So there's a reading of the Torah to all the people. And from this we learn the reading of the Torah in the synagogues. We're reading the Torah. We're making it something accessible. It's for all the people. Everybody has to have a connection to and a relationship with the Torah. We don't look to our rabbis to learn Torah for us. We have to, there are teachers and there are guides and they are people that we learn from. But each one of us is empowered to learn our own Torah and to on some level write our own Torah. What is your Torah? Who are you in the cosmos? What are our strengths, each one of us, and how do we relate to the Torah? It says that for every letter in the Torah, we represent what each one of us is a letter in the Torah, whatever that means. But maybe it means that we each have a piece. We each have our own part of it. Like each one of us is uniquely relating to the Torah our own unique way. Like none of us are doing it the same, right? We're all coming with our own individuality and our own mixtures of different emotions and life circumstances, etc. So the way in which we hold on to the Torah and we and embody the Torah and we live the Torah is different. And we're all needed, right? We're all needed. And maybe that gets back to the beginning of the Torah portion, Nitzavim, where we're talking about we're all there. All the people are there as long as we're lining up, right? If you're too far off and you justify it, then that could be problematic. And that's not emes, that's not truth. So I don't want to get into that. But the bottom line is we're all the Jewish people. And we're all, I believe, I hope, deep down are able on some deep soul level to connect with each other. I do think that. Even if we don't think the same things, even if we're not seeing the truth with a capital T. But we are one Jewish people, and at the end of the days, we're all going to recognize that. We're all going to see it for what it really is, for the truth that it really is. Okay, so let's go on in the Torah portion. So it shall be when these things come and there's a wording here where it says blessings in the curses. So in the curses, even when things look bad, even when we're living what seems to be terrible times, and we are in terrible times there, but maybe there are blessings in it. Where are the blessings? Where are the silver linings? And not to diminish the pain and suffering that goes on along with the curses, but in there are the blessings as well. And it's not all then, like even when you talk to Dr. Eva Eger, she speaks about being in Auschwitz. Even in Auschwitz there was holiness, and there were people kind to each other, and there were people embracing each other, and people being good to each other, and there's love between people. There's even there in the hellhole of Auschwitz there was kindness and love and blessing. So anyway, we keep going on in this about turning. So I'm going to read it to you because it's so beautiful, and it so much speaks about what we're doing in this season. So then you will take it to your heart among all the nations where Hashem your God has dispersed you, and you will return unto Hashem your God and listen to his voice, according to everything that I command you today, you and your children with all your heart and all your soul. Hashem your God will bring you bring back your captivity and have mercy upon you, and he will gather you in from all the peoples to which Hashem your God has scattered you. If you're dispersed will be at the ends of the heaven. From there God will gather you in. From there he will take you. Hashem your God will bring you to the land your forefathers possessed, and you shall possess it. He will do good to you and make you more numerous than your forefathers. He will circumcise your heart and the heart of your offspring to love Hashem your God with all your heart, with all your soul, that you may live. A lot of returning. We're going to turn, God's going to turn. We're going to turn, God's going to turn. There's this dancing. There's this reciprocal relationship between us and God. We're not just the passive recipients of God's whatever, like quote unquote emotions, anthropomorphized. Obviously God doesn't have emotions. They're just ways for us to understand the way in which God operates in the world. But way in which we are partners, we're connected to. So if we turn back towards God, God will help us. We can't achieve anything without God's help. Let's underline that. We can't achieve anything without God's help. So when we turn towards God, when we have a desire, when we yearn to have a relationship with God, with divine, with the source of everything, with the creator of our creator, with the creator of the universe, with the transcendent truths, with all of that, when I desire that, God's going to help me. And we're going to keep turning. We're going to turn towards. It's like the people who have their backs to each other and they can't see each other. So you start turning, and then you're face to face, and then you're in an embrace. And that's what our goal is. Our goal is to embrace. Our goal is to come together. But we have to want it. We have to turn ourselves. And God says, if you turn, I'll turn. You turn, I'll turn. You turn, I'll turn. And deep down what we're doing, and he says, I will circumcise your heart. Such a visceral, such a beautiful picture. Like, we have a heart. Our heart is open. Our heart is pure. Our heart is loving, and yet we cover it up. We have all these things like, we have things that get in the way. We have things that block us. We block us from our relationships with each other, block us from relationships with God. And what this season is trying to do is remove the blockages, remove the things that stop us from connecting to our soul. Our soul is the part of us that loves. Our soul is the part of us that forgives. Our soul is the part of us that yearns for transcendence and for eternity and for infinity, and yearns for something bigger than the me and the here and the now. That's our soul. And our soul had learnt all of Torah, says our tradition. In our mother's womb, we learnt all of Torah. Our soul was taught everything. And now we're relearning it. We have that truth inside of us. We need to kind of like access it. We need to return to it. Back to the Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Go back to the state before the first missing the mark, before they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil and were expelled from the Garden of Eden. When they were in the Garden of Eden, there was this unblocked relationship between mankind and God. And we want that back. We want to return back to that. How do we do that? We have to dig deep. We have to uncover what's blocking us. And if we start the process and want it and try it, and then God will help us. It says, God will circumcise your heart. He will open you up. He will help you. He will help you take away the blockages that block us from that state of being where we go back into almost back to our beginning, back to the Adam in the Garden of Eden, the first creation, right? So it's very interesting. On the Friday of creation, when Adam and Eve were created, one version of the stories, they were created back to back, one entity back to back, and God separated them, and they then came face to face, right? So we have that visual of the Adam 1 story, the way in which Adam was created, the two stories of Adam creation, but the one story is that they were created as a one being, Adam and Eve, and that they were separated and then brought back together. And so I think about that sometimes when I think about what is it we're trying to do. We're trying to reconnect ourselves back to God, to our source. We're trying to open ourselves out, like pull it all away, take away the jealousies and the things that block us, and our angers and our insecurities. Like, how do we do that? We have to trust, and we have to recognize that that's who we are deep down. That is who we are. And we've gone astray. We have gone astray, but that's not who we are, right? We don't see our missing the mark, the things that we do wrong, when we messed up and we should have done this and we should have done that. That's not seen as who I am, right? The Jewish concept of who we are is that we're pure and we're holy, and that we do things that mess us up. It's like a window, and we kind of put schmutz on the window, and we get this opportunity every year to start cleaning the window. So when I get to Rosh Hashanah and through to Yom Kippur, I've cleaned the window, and it's shining and it's through, and I get that relationship, and I'm opened up. And yes, I'll go back and I'll do the wrong things in the coming year. But at that point, today on Rosh Hashanah, on Yom Kippur, I'm new, I'm clean, I'm washed. The window has washed, and I'm clean. And God said, I'll purify you. I'll circumcise your heart. I'll give you help you do teshuvah. So there's a lovely saying here. I want to read you about teshuvah. Let's see if I can find it. Never find it when you want it, right? Here it is. So teshuvah, a state in which one is restored to God and to the deepest truth of his innermost being, and after which life cannot be the same. If we touch that, if we access that, then we can't be the same. Maybe they're the epiphanal moments. Maybe they're the moments where we're like, we have an epiphany and we go, whoa, or near-death experiences. I'd love to find someone who has a near-death experience to describe it. Like, what's that like? And how is it that you live your life after that? You've had this sense that there's something so much bigger than you. A gradual reawakening of the mind and soul to God's call. A spiritual awakening, a movement towards renewed connectedness. And then we will return with all our hearts, with all our soul, to be restored to the land, and God will rejoice over us. So we want to get to this place. We want to get to this place where our heart is circumcised, where we've taken away all the impediments, all the blockages. Is it possible? Not on our own. It's only possible with God's help. So we ask God to help us. And it's interesting because it says, now when it goes on, it says, for this commandment that I command you today, it's not hidden from you, and it's not distant. It's not in the heaven for you to say, who can ascend to the heaven for us and take it for us, so that we can listen to it and perform it. Nor is it across the sea for you to say, who can cross to the other side of the sea for us and take it for us, so that we can listen to it and perform it. Rather, the matter is very near to you, in your mouth and in your heart to perform it. And many of the commentators say that this mitzvah, what is this commandment that I command you today, is teshuvah. It's the mitzvah of returning, that it's not far away. It could be that it's Torah. Some commentators say that the commandment is all of Torah. It's not far from you. You can do it. Not hard. Feels like it's hard. But if we understand that it's all inside of us, that we have it deep down, we just have to unblock it. Or to say maybe that this mitzvah, that is not far from us, it's not in the heavens and it's not across the sea, it's right here, it's in our mouth and in our hearts. It's the mitzvah of teshuvah. It's the mitzvah of being able to return to our pristine state and being able to go back to who we were when we were Adam in the Garden of Eden, when that soul of Adam, the first man, was in the Garden of Eden with nothing blocking him, with no division between him and God. That's what we have the potential to recreate for ourselves. It's wild. And we work at it and we want it. We want it because there's nothing more enjoyable. They say that's the greatest pleasure, is having connection to God. And don't we want that? It's worth all the pleasures of this world is that connection. And it's accessible to us. It says not across the heavens, no. It's right here. It's in our heart and it's in our mouth. So what does it mean it's in our mouth? So it's how we use our mouth. Our mouths are such powerful tools. Do we use our mouth to praise other people? Do we use our mouth to speak words of wisdom and Torah and truth? Do we use our mouths to do teshuvah, to do the confession, to speak out the things that we want to be different? That's good use of our mouth. And if we use our mouth well and get back to this idea that it's not what you think, it's what you do. It's what you do, and doing also includes speaking. How we use our mouths, how we use our bodies, how we use our hands, how we use our legs, how we use our everything that we have. How we use it is a reflection of the potential we have. So I was having a conversation with somebody. Well, what about somebody who's vegetative state, in a hospital and can't do anything. So in that state, whatever God has planned for that person, what can they quote unquote do? They can be the recipient of other people's kindnesses. They can, I don't know what they can do, but maybe that's enough. Maybe that's why they're here, so other people can be kind to them, so that it can be the fruition of other people's kindnesses, like bringing that into the world. So they're the recipient. We need recipients as well as doers. But if we are what we do, then I don't know how to answer that for the people who are in vegetative states, because they can't do anything. So obviously that's not a criterion that pertains to them. But the rest of us who, thank God, are able to still do things, what is it that we're doing? And we might be limited. We might not be able to walk or talk, or we might not have eyes that see, or we might not have ears that hear, or we might not, whatever it is, but we can do something. And whatever it is that we do is a reflection of what it is that we want to be in the world. Okay, so it's not far from us. It's not over there. It's lo b'shamayim hi. It's not in the heavens. We're bringing it down and we're making it ours, and we're enacting it and we're doing it, and we want it, and we want that relationship. It's all about the relationship with God, and that's what I believe is what Moses is teaching the Jewish people. He's saying this is what you need to do. You need to remember God's always with you, even through the hard times, even through the Auschwitzes, and through all the curses that were delineated in last week's Torah portion. Even when all that stuff happens, I'm with you, and if you turn to me, I'll turn to you, and if you conceal yourself from me, then I will be concealed from you. So we also understand that God has 13 attributes that he manifests in the world, one of which is supreme patience. So when we do things that turn our back on God, God's waiting for us to turn back to him. And this is the time where God, so to speak, is in the field, so to speak, is close. So if we do a little turning, then God will turn a whole lot, and he'll turn us a whole lot. And there's the opportunity, the closeness, and the opportunity for us to sort of speed dial the process to make it really happen very quickly is now, right now, in the month of Elul, coming up to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and we want to seize it, we want to think about it, we want to dig deep, we want to work on ourselves. So I read something else here which is really lovely, where it talks about the root, where it says the root of who you are. Perhaps there is among you a root flourishing with gall and wormwood, and it will be when he hears the words of this teaching, and he will bless himself in his heart, saying, peace be with me, though I walk as my heart sees fit, thereby adding the watered upon the thirsty. So what I read about that is that the idea of the root, and who we are at the root, or who our ancestors were at the root, and we're a progression of our ancestors. So very often in our prayers we refer back to our ancestors. We are the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Sarah, Rachel, Leah, and Rebecca. We're those children. We're the great-great-great-grandchildren, but our roots go back there. That's where our roots are. So we want to get ourselves back so that we're in a straight line from those roots. And if the root is rotted, if it's not a good root, then the branches and the fruits that come from that will be off, right? So we want to align our roots. We want to make sure our root system is sweet and is not wormwood and gall, and is sweet and is lined up, so that what comes from us are sweet fruits. So again, this idea of who we are and what we pass on, and how we influence our environment, how we influence the world. Each one of us influences the world and has ripples that come out from each one of us. So are we going to attach ourselves to those roots, those pure roots of our foremothers and our forefathers, and try to be an extension of them, learn from them all of their attributes of kindness and loving kindness and giving and doing, and all the lessons that we learn. Rachel, who cried for the Jewish people, who cried for all the Jewish people, not just the Jewish people that she agreed with. It was Jewish people for all times. We are her children. She's considered to be Rachel Imenu. Can we think of ourselves as being, the mother of all the Jewish people? I don't know, but it's something to think about. I'm not alone. I'm not isolated. I'm not an individual that doesn't have a community to tap into. I am an individual, and I am responsible for my actions, but I'm also part of this much bigger collective of Jewish people. And I think it's really important to think about that. So on Rosh Hashanah, whether we're in synagogue or we're not in synagogue, there is a sense that we're all together. So when we have to hear the shofar, you have to hear the shofar. You have to go find a shofar blower, in for real. and listen to the shofar, and it's going to wake us up, and it's going to like open us up and circumcise our hearts and connect us to our souls. We have to listen to that, and hopefully we'll listen to it maybe with some other people, and together we'll feel that connection, because we're all listening. We're all part of those sound waves that are coming into us. They're coming into other people too, and it's waking us all up to recognize we're all one soul, and we have to return to that soul, and we have to let that soul be our guiding light. When we're born, we understand mystically that there's an angel, and the angel holds us and says, are you going to be a righteous person, or are you not going to be a righteous person? It's in your hands. It's up to us. We have the choice. We have the capacity. We have the power to be righteous people. And that's what we're learning. We're not just it's out of my control. What could I do? I can't help myself. Yeah, we can say that, but that doesn't define me, right? So it's really important that we are not the things we do wrong. We are pure and holy and special, and a breath of God, and connected to that God kingness, royalty, fatherness, motherness, whatever. I don't want to use gender terms because I don't want to be offensive, but it's not that. It's the female energy, the male energy, all of God and what God brings into the world. I want to connect to that. I want to connect to that sort of enormity of eternity and infinity. Connect to that, because I'm part of that. And when I die, as Moses is about to die, he knows he's going to be gathered unto his people, meaning he's going to go up. His soul's going to connect back to the source of all souls, and he's going to see it all, right? So the fact that he didn't go into the land of Israel, he's sad about it in this world. But when he goes into the world of truth and he sees it all, it's okay. He didn't do that. That wasn't his job. It's the job of Joshua. And that's what we learn in this week's Torah portion. Moses is resigned, perhaps. He understands, right? He did his praying. He did his pleading to God. God says, you're not going in. It's not what's going to happen. You have to give over the mantle of leadership to Joshua. Joshua is the right man for the job. He's the guy that's going to take the people into the promised land. And Moses says to Joshua, be of courage, I think it's strength and courage. Be of strength and be of courage. You can do this. I have faith in you. You can do this. As humble as you are, right? He was considered also be, as Moses was the most humble of all people, but Joshua was also considered to be extremely humble. And but yet be strong and be courageous. When you're a leader, you have to take lead. You have to be strong. You have to believe in what you're doing, and do it with a firmness and a strength, so that the people can come along with you, right? So that's what Moses is bequeathing and strengthening, and saying it in front of all the people. All the people, you have to know that I'm going up to be gathered unto my people. I'm going to die at the end of this day, and Joshua is going to take you into the land. So he's the one that's going to be your leader, and that's God ordained. God ordained it that it should be Joshua that would take the people in, and he's going to be strong, and he's going to be courageous, and he's the right man for this job. And he's going to take you in. Okay, so it's not far from you. It's not good for you. Let's see, what else did I want to say? Okay, so at the end of the first half of this week's Torah portion, Parshat Nitzavim, see, I have placed before you today the life and the good, the death and the evil, that which I command you today, to love God, to walk in his ways, to observe his commandments, his decrees, his ordinances, that you will live and you will multiply, and Hashem, your God, will bless you in the land to which you come to possess it. So it's all there. That's what it is. If you turn away, you'll be off the mark. Stay connected. Work on that. Be that, because you're going to go into the land and you're going to turn astray, and it's going to be not an easy ride, and it's going to be hard. But Moses is trying to strengthen the people, and strengthen people for all time, for us today. Be strong. God's at the helm. We're going in a direction, but God's with us. He hasn't abandoned us. He's here with us, and we have to go through this for whatever reason, but he hasn't abandoned us. So let's stay strong. What's our plank that we're holding on to? Go on to that Torah that I gave over at the beginning of the Rabbi Akiva, who was holding onto the plank as the waves were smashing all around. Whatever's smashing around in our lives, what's the plank we're holding on to? MS, truth. We're holding on to a belief that we are pure, and we have a soul that is transcendent, that is part of something way bigger than us, that we're part of a big organism that's known as the Jewish people, that we're responsible for each other, that we hurt when each other hurts, that we rejoice when each other rejoice, and we're one people. And let's work on becoming that one people, because we're kulam, we're all together. How do we do that? And maybe it's about It's about taking care of each other and loving each other and looking out for each other, and not turning turning our backs on anybody in our people, in our world. And we can't fix it all, but we can each one do each little bit, and each one is necessary and each one is important. So that's the end of the Nitzavim. Then we come into Vayeilach. So Vayeilach is Moses went. So the beginning of Nitzavim, it's standing. We're like a matzeva. We're like a monument. We're standing. We're strong. We've got the truth. We're standing like angels. Angels don't move. They have one leg and they're standing there like we do in the Kedusha of the Amida, of the silent prayer. We stand there with our legs together as if we're angels. And now we've got Moses Vayeilach. He's moving, right? People move. We're not sedentary people. We're not stopped. We haven't stopped growing. If you stop growing, you're dead, right? We're not going to ever stop growing until the end of our days. So don't stay still, right? We might have to have those moments of introspection, those moments of like looking back over our lives and kind of figuring out where I am and where I'm going and who I am and understanding myself. But today I'm here, I am today standing, and I'm going to go Vayeilach. I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep growing. And Moses has reached the end of his 120 years. He reaches 120 years, which is why we say should live to 120. I don't know if that's always such a bracha to wish somebody, but that's what we wish each other as a sort of like a throwaway line, which should be like Moses should be to be as healthy and as humble and as connected to God as Moses, who reached the age of 120. That was how old he was when he died. He got to that point of 120. He's still going. He's still trying to do God's will. He understands God's will is you're not going to get into the land, right? So he stopped praying for that. He understands that's not going to be. And I wonder if we could do that. Like, what is God's will, right? Is it? And it might be that what I'm praying for isn't what it is that should happen to me, the right thing for it to happen to me. And then at the point where it happens, then I'm done praying for that thing, right? All right, so I can't pray for that anymore. So like, that's it. And so too, Moses stopped praying to go into the land, and now he's continuing to give over to the people that he says, I'm 120 years old. I can no longer go out and go in. I'm like reached my end. I'm not growing anymore. I'm done. I'm going to die. For Hashem has said to me, you shall not cross the Jordan. And that Joshua was going to do it. And he summoned Joshua and he said, be strong and courageous. You're going to take the people into the land. And then Moses wrote this Torah and he gave it to the Kohanim, the sons of Levi, the bearers of the Ark of the Covenant, and to all the elders of Israel. And now we learn the mitzvah of writing our own Sefer Torah, and the mitzvah of the king reading over the words of the Torah to all the people every 7 years. So it's a collective. We all have to hear the Torah, and it's also individual. We have to write our own Torah. And it's a wonderful message to end on. Like, we don't end. We're still learning. We're still growing. We're still trying to figure it out. We're trying to have some clarity in this world that seems so murky. And we have to pray for it. I think we have to pray to our God to help us, because nothing will happen in this world if without God's assistance and without God's help. So even to get in touch with that and say, I need God to help me, please help me. And so just to go over, because I think pretty much I said all the things that I wanted to say, but I really wanted to bring out the concept of the mitzvah, the way in which Moses is telling the Jewish people to do teshuvah. Always, for all times, we have to work on ourselves. We have to dig deep. We have to take the shmutz, take the dirt off. That is not who we are. We're pure and we're holy. We have this holy neshama, this holy soul. We mess it up. We do the wrong thing. We put dirt on it, but we have to wash it. And every Yom Kippur, it washes clean. God's going to purify us if we want to be purified, if we're turning towards Him, if we're looking to, like, work on ourselves and to return to who we are and to say, like, I did this and I did that, but that's not who I am, right? We have a lot of justifications that we do for ourselves, that we say, oh, I did that, but it's not really who I am, right? It's an appendage. It's not who I am. I'm not a bad person. I'm not an evil person, right? I'm a good person. I just did an evil thing, or maybe not an evil thing, but I did a bad thing, or I did something I shouldn't have done. Okay, again, let's build on the foundation of who we are, which is good, and that our root system, where our roots are our ancestors, our forefathers, our foremothers, that exemplified the relationship with God that we can achieve, that exemplified certain character traits of action in the world, of kindness, of praying for each other, of learning Torah, of relationship to God, of kindness, of etc., etc. All of those things that our ancestors exhibited and did in the world, that we learn from that, and we want to be like that. And please God, when we continue to self-reflect and introspect and not identify ourselves necessarily with the things that we did wrong, we can perhaps identify ourselves with the things we did right, but not with the things we did wrong, and line ourselves up and try to get more in tune with our soul talk and to be more in tune with each other. And please God, when we get to Rosh Hashanah and we get to Yom Kippur, God will wipe it all clean, and we'll have a new year of sweetness, of good health, and all togetherness and equality of the Jewish people and the whole world.